Aston Martin has finally shown off their 2026 car, and it's safe to say it's got everyone talking. Designed by the legendary Adrian Newey, the car looks completely different from anything else on the grid. But with a late start to testing and a brand new Honda engine, the big question is simple. Has Aston Martin built something special, or are they in trouble? Let's start with the design, because that's where all the attention has been. The most obvious thing about the AMR26 is how small the side pods are. Some people are calling it a zero pod design, which basically means the side pods are so tiny that they almost look like they're not there at all. This is something Mercedes tried back in 2022 with their W13, and it didn't work at all. So that car bounced like crazy at high speeds and was an absolute nightmare to drive. But Newey believes he can make it work. The idea is simple. By making the side pods as small as possible, you open up a massive gap underneath the car. That lets more airflow through the floor, which creates more downforce. More downforce means more grip, which means faster lap times. Newey described the car as tightly packaged. He said this needed a very close working relationship with the engineers to make it all fit together. With the AMR26 being such a radical design, do you think Adrian Newey has created another championship-winning car, or is this too much of a gamble for a team that's already 4 months behind its rivals? The front of the car is also very interesting. It has a wide nose that looks a bit like a pelican's beak. This is actually a very classic Newey design trick that he used on his Red Bull cars back in 2010 and 2011. The idea is to control the air right at the front of the car and send it cleanly underneath. The car also has a triangular airbox, which is similar to what Ferrari's done with their SF26. And like most teams on the grid, Aston Martin has gone with pushrod suspension on both front and rear. But here's the thing. While the design looks amazing, Aston Martin is playing catch-up in a big way. They were the last team to get on track in Barcelona, and they only managed about 65 laps in total. To put that into context, Mercedes did over 500 laps. The reason for this is that Aston Martin's brand new wind tunnel was not ready until mid-April last year. That's 4 months after their rivals started their aero work. Newey was quite honest about it, saying that put us on the back foot by about 4 months, which has meant a very compressed research and design cycle. 4 months in Formula One is a very long time. While other teams were testing different ideas and fixing problems, Aston Martin was still getting their wind tunnel up and running. George Russell from Mercedes said the Aston Martin was probably the most standout in terms of car design, and that everybody was looking at that rear suspension. But he did also make a very good point. He said it's not a beauty contest. The car has to be fast, and right now, nobody knows if it actually is. This is why both Newey and Alonso are talking about a long game. They know the car might not be the fastest at the start of the season, but they believe it has a lot of room to grow. Newey said that they focused on building a car with strong basics and high development potential, rather than a car that is already at its best from day one. He said the car that raced in Barcelona will look a fair bit different from the car that races in Melbourne, and it will keep changing throughout the season. Then there is the Honda engine, which is a big deal, but there are some concerns. There have been rumours that Honda is a bit behind on their engine development, especially on the internal combustion side. Alonso admitted that the team has no clear picture of where their engine stands compared to the others. During the Barcelona test, they were doing constant speed runs on the straights, which means they were not even pushing the engine to its limits. So they have no idea how they compare to Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull on power. One thing that could help Aston Martin is their partnership with Aramco, the fuel supplier. The 2026 rules require all teams to use sustainable fuels, and that's a big change. Aramco already has experience with that because they supplied the fuel for Formula 2, which used 100% sustainable fuel in 2025. Most other fuel suppliers are still figuring this out. In fact, the FIA gave teams special permission to use their old 2025 fuel during the Barcelona test because the new fuel was not ready for everyone. If Aston Martin and Aramco have already got their fuel sorted, then that of course could be a big advantage when the season starts. Now let's talk about Fernando Alonso. At 44 years old, he's one of the best drivers in the world, and his experience will be crucial in developing the AMR 26. He's not worried about the first few races. He said the championship and having a good or bad season is going to play a little bit more in the second half of the season than in the first half. He wants the team to focus on understanding the car in Bahrain and then build from there. His goal is to be fighting for wins by the middle of the year. That might sound very ambitious given the circumstances, but this is Fernando Alonso we're talking about. He has a way of getting the most out of any car. Alonso also said he's excited to finally be working with Adrian Newey. These two have been rivals for most of their careers, and with Newey's Red Bull cars often beating Alonso on track. Now they're on the same team, and Alonso called it the beginning of something important. The upcoming Bahrain test, which runs from February 11th to 13th, will be huge for Aston Martin. They need a smooth and reliable run to gather as much data as possible. They need to understand how the car behaves on a different track in different conditions and with the new sustainable fuel. If they can do that, they'll have a much clearer picture of where they stand heading into the first race in Melbourne. So what is the verdict on the Aston Martin AMR 26? Well, it's the most fascinating and unpredictable car on the grid in 2026. It's a very bold design from one of the greatest minds in motorsport, but it's also a car that is 4 months behind its rivals and powered by an engine that nobody knows much about. So Aston Martin is the ultimate wild card for 2026. They could be fighting for wins by the end of the year, or they could be struggling to keep up. The next few weeks will tell us a lot, but one thing is certain. With Adrian Newey designing the car and Fernando Alonso driving it, you can never count Aston Martin out. Let's talk about what happened when the car actually hit the track. When Aston Martin finally made it to Barcelona on Thursday, the fourth day of the test, it was Lance Stroll who got the first run, but it didn't go well. He managed just 4 laps before the team had to bring the car back into the garage because of a problem. That must have been very frustrating, especially after waiting so long to get on track. The next day, on Friday, things went a lot better. Alonso took over and completed 61 laps, which was a far more productive day. He was able to get a proper feel for the car and start giving the engineers some very useful feedback. His best time was a 1:46.4, which sounds slow, but remember, he was not pushing for the fast lap times. He was doing system checks, learning how the car handles, and gathering data for the team. One thing also worth mentioning is the role of Newey that he's playing at Aston Martin. He's not just designing the car, he's also taken on the role of team principal, which is something he's never done before. That means he's involved in every single decision, from the design of the car to the strategy on race day. Some people think this is a good thing because it gives one person full control over the direction of the team. Others worry that it might be a bit too much for one person to handle. Either way, it does show just how committed Newey is to making Aston Martin a winning team. What do you think? The AMR 26 certainly looks the business, it means business, but does it have what it takes to fight for race wins in 2026? Let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll see you very soon.